Hello, welcome to Now Tell Us. At Now Tell Us, we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and educate us, inspire us. They just come and sometimes we just have a good time, but then they are telling us something interesting. And always we have great guests with us. And that means even today we have a great guest with us. Her name is known as Kayla, Bobbi Kahler. And she talks about getting unstuck. And I have a question for you. Do you at times feel stuck? Like you want to move ahead, but you don't know how to, and you have dreams with you, but you don't know how to accomplish them? Now, this is your perfect episode. Don't go anywhere. Stay here because Bobbi is going to tell us a lot on how to get unstuck. So we are going to meet her soon. But before we go, let me remind you that if you want to get our past episodes, this episode too in future and other future episodes, please go to nowtellus.com. They'll all be there. And they are available on all the Audible podcasts that you are familiar with: iTunes, Google Podcast, Audible, Spotify. Just go and search for Now Tell Us. Hey, we just ranked number 9 on Podmatch. Actually, we are climbing up. We are number 6 now, and we might hit number 1. And this is all because you are there supporting us. So if you're there, please send us a question, comment as we are moving on, and we will appreciate your time and your feedback. Thank you very much. Let me not waste more time because we have a lot to hear from Bobbi. Let's go and meet her. Here we go. Hello, Bobbi.
Hey, Anthony.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fine too. And where are you, by the way? Let's know.
I am in Colorado in the United States, way up high in the Rocky Mountains, about 9,000 feet. So it's nice and snowy here.
Okay, so you're enjoying the cold. I don't like cold that much.
I love it. I've always loved winter. It's my favorite.
Okay. Hmm. I like the heat to go to the sea and have a swim.
That's pretty good too.
Okay. Wonderful. So we are here with you, and thank you for coming to Now Tell Us. We really appreciate you and your time here.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, and I know you're someone who's done so much and accomplished much. We know you are an entrepreneur, you are a writer, you are a leader, you are a speaker, you are a life coach, and you are an athlete.
Yes, I am.
What do you do? Do you run? Do you use?
I run, but
Uh-huh.
I also love cross country skiing. During the wintertime, I ski almost every day, cross country
Okay.
ski. And then in the summertime, I'm a road cyclist. And I also
Wow.
love paddle boarding. And have you ever played frisbee golf?
No, I've never actually heard about that.
It's addicting. It's
What?
very
How is
addicting.
it like?
It's kind of like golf,
Mhm.
like you've got baskets that you're supposed to hit, but you use special frisbees for them instead. And
Okay.
yeah, and some of them are for driving, some of them for putting, and but it's a fascinating sport. So, and I also love tennis. I love all sports. I used to play a lot of softball, and I just love sports. I love athletics.
And always on the move.
Always on the move.
Now, some of us are stuck. We don't play games. We don't accomplish much in life. And we will be glad to hear from you because you are a life coach. And tell us, and maybe you can share with us some of your personal experiences. Have you ever been stuck in life?
Oh, yeah. So many times, Anthony. And
Mhm.
here's the thing: it happens to everybody. I
Mhm.
mean, It happens to high achievers. It happens to everybody. So I think that my first experience that really made an impact for me was back when I was 20. I was 23 years old,
Okay.
and I was working two jobs. I
Mm-hmm.
was barely keeping my head above water, because I was just trying to keep up with everything. And it was a New Year's Eve. And I went home after working my two jobs. I was in my little tiny apartment, and I was thinking, how did my life end up this way? Like, I was working as hard as I knew how to work, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't making any progress. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the forms of being stuck. And I remember thinking, okay, so how'd this happen to me? I was a good student, all this kind of stuff. And the answer that came back to me was that my life was a reflection of the choices that I'd made so far.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I'm like, well, that's not the answer I wanted, you know? But there was a lot of truth in that, and there was also a lot of hope in that. Because if it's true that my life was a reflection of the choices I'd made so far, then what that meant is that if I learned how to make better choices, I could get a better result.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started studying leadership, communication, what's now known as emotional intelligence, um, because I realized, like, man, this is up to me if I want to make a change.
Yeah.
And I think that lesson or that experience taught me three things, and I call them my fundamental truths. The first one is that the future can be changed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where we are, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can see your book behind you, Achieve Your Dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can
Yeah.
achieve our dreams. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. It doesn't matter where we started. That's separate. So number one, the future can be changed. Number two is that you can change your future. Someone
Mm-hmm.
else isn't going to change it for you. You have to do that for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And number three is that you can start now. You don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest traps that keep us stuck. We think we have to have all the answers before we start. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not true, because we can learn what we need to learn along the way.
Mm.
So those are my three fundamental truths.
It's good to hear that. And you got started. You took the course to improve yourself. You went
Hmm.
to college and you took degrees. How easy was it? I mean, was it easy? Were you just focused there and you kept on moving? Because I know, and this is the reason why I'm asking. I know people who have gone to college. They go for the first semester or the first year, and they say, "Now this is not the direction that I need to be." So it's not only in your career, it's not only uh, I mean it's everywhere in every
Yeah.
area. Uh-huh. So how was
Yeah.
it to just stay focused and keep on moving in the same direction?
That's a good question. Because, okay, so when I was 23, I had not gone to college yet because my parents really did not believe in college.
Mm-hmm.
And so first of all, I had to figure out, how am I going to pay for college? Because this was before financial aid was as readily available as it is now in the United States. So I had to pay
Mm-hmm.
for it. So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing was, it's like, how do I get a good enough job so that I can, work one job instead of two, so I actually have the time to go to college? And how do I get a good enough job that I can pay for it? Um, but to your point though, I was very focused on, this is a goal and this is what I want. And so within it, I think it was within a year, I had found a way. I had moved. I got a better job. I found a way to get enrolled in college. And this is kind of ironic. I made when I finally got a job that was good enough so I could go to college. Uh, I thought, whatever course they have available, that's a course I'm going to take, because I wanted to get started. And
Mm-hmm.
the only course they had available that fit my schedule for that particular semester was a psychology class. I'm like, I don't want to take a psychology class, but it was the
Ah.
only one available. So I took it, and I absolutely fell in love. And that ended up being the thing I studied most. So it was one of those things. It's like, sometimes you don't know exactly how it's going to turn out,
Mm-hmm.
but it was wonderful. So, but it took a lot. Because, sometimes my family, they didn't understand why it was so important to me, but it was something that was. So I thought, you know what, this is something that's important to me, and I'm pursuing it, and it's my goal and it's my responsibility to make it happen if that's what I want.
Mm, wonderful. And we can see that you're doing good in it so far. From
Thank you.
what we have observed, you're doing great. Now, let me take a break here and appreciate every person who's watching us and those who are listening to us. I see we are being watched from South Sudan. Thank you very much, Akot, for that feedback. And everywhere that you are hearing us from, please let us know. And if you have questions, ask them. If you have a contribution to make, we'll appreciate. So thank you very much, all our viewers and listeners. Now, uh, we have people, and like you say, when you were growing up, you had limitations, and we have people who are limited on resources. They don't I mean, you say we don't have to have everything to get started, but then there are people who don't have the very basic things to get started. Do I
Mhm.
just get started? And I don't know, I don't have an example to give on these, but do I just get started for the sake of getting started?
I think that it's knowing what you want.
Uh-huh.
You know, number or you know, I'm gonna back up a little bit on that. Sometimes it's just knowing that you want a change, right? Because sometimes we don't know exactly what we do want. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I first started going to college, I didn't know that I could even be doing what I am now. It was
Mm-hmm.
just I knew I wanted to change, and
Yeah.
that's enough to get started. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that people ask me about a lot. And I think if that's where you are, that's fine. So start doing research, start
Mm-hmm.
talking to people, talk to as many people as you can. Anthony, I can't even tell you how many people will reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? Can we have a conversation via, email or a quick phone call?" Because they're like, "It seems like you're passionate about what you're doing and I want to know how you got started with it." Not that that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be their path, but talking to other people that you see like, "Hey, that person seems like they love what they're doing," or "That's a person that's doing what I'd like to be doing." Start that way, but just something to get the ball rolling, because nothing's going to happen until we take an action. That's why I'm such a believer in action. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
small action, if it's a tiny action, it doesn't matter, but it's something to get us started, because nothing happens without that.
I like that. And because, as you say, there are many things that we lack for the very reason that we don't
Hmm.
ask. And you
Hmm.
now, I may imagine that you're a professional coach and you take clients who are paid clients, but then at some point you just have an opportunity for someone. I guess this is my guess that if someone came to you innocently and said, "Hey, help me along here," you would afford 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and that could mean the
Hmm.
whole thing for the person to have a clearer picture, an idea of the direction that they want to move from. But it starts from asking, taking
That's
that
right.
action of asking.
Yeah.
Eh, and is it true that you've helped those people even when they were not committed to?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
it absolutely. And like I've done mentoring, and there's a
yeah.
group actually in Africa that I did a formal mentoring program for, which was amazing. And they're all like university, like recently graduated from university students.
Okay.
And they've reached out to me on LinkedIn, so we're connected. And they frequently keep in touch. And they're like, "Hey, I've got a question about this." They message me, and I
Mm,
respond. Or I've had people that will just say, "Hey, can we talk by email or just a short phone call?" Because sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes all you need is that 15 minutes from someone
mhm,
else.
mhm,
And I think most people are happy to give of themselves that way.
mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, because some of the things don't, I mean, don't they don't cost us anything, but then
No.
they could mean so much to someone who's out stuck out there. And
Yeah.
now that you mention that, and we talk about you offering just 10 minutes, I have experienced some great success on an area just because I took a hint from someone who was taking,
Hmm.
and I say carelessly, but dropped an idea in my mind.
Yeah.
But I was keen listening for
Hmm.
something that is going to be helpful.
That's
So
right.
eh, I know there is someone who's listening to us right here this evening that may work or uh, day, because where you are it's day, in my side it's evening, and is going to walk away with something that is going to be very helpful to him or her. And this reason that we are doing this is to help you to get unstuck from where you are to where you need to be.
Yeah.
or where you want to be. Where
Hmm.
is it that you want to be? Now, how can I identify my purpose? Like, okay, but it's something that it's kind of repeating, but because we say you get started, and but how can I? Because we use this word a lot, the purpose, my purpose. How can I identify my purpose?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's a tough one,
Uh-huh.
right? Because and there are people out there who really specialize in purpose, and I'd
Okay.
be happy to give you some resources on that. But from what I believe, what I've studied, and from talking to other people, and how I've done it for myself, is to really tap into, and sometimes this takes journaling, but what do
Mm-hmm.
I deeply care about? Like, what is a problem I want to solve?
Mm-hmm.
That's one way. Another question, and this comes from Joe Calavito, who's a friend of mine, and he really focuses on purpose. He asks people, what makes you angry? Like, because a lot of times that will tell you that's what I want to do. So for me, what makes me angry, and not angry like I'm mad at somebody, but angry in terms of it shouldn't be this way, is when people hold themselves back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that means that's what I want to help people break through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's keep talking.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something. Sorry about that.
No, I
An,
didn't. Yeah. Uh-huh.
another great way, another fabulous way to go about identifying your purpose is, what do people reach out to you for? And so, and that comes from a book. I think it's called The Call or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. But when I asked myself that question, people call me. They're like my friends and family. They're like, Bobbi, I need to talk. It's because they feel stuck, because they're confronting some kind of crossroads and they don't know how to go forward, or there's some kind of big decision in front of them and they don't know the best way forward. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when people call me. And so the reason that question is so important is it kind of tells you what you're naturally good at. And I think sometimes when we're thinking about purpose, we think it's something that's beyond us,
Mm-hmm.
when in fact a lot of times I think it's something that is just innate within us. And because it's already part of us, we don't always see it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just part of who we are.
Yeah. I get it, and thank you very much for that. Now, recently, I mean, like you're saying, some people reach out to me and they ask me questions, and maybe
Hmm.
I identify how I can be of help to them. Recently, someone asked me a question, Anthony, please tell me. Um, I find myself that I'm capable of doing so many things, and I'm not able to focus. And I mean, or find my purpose and stick to that. How would you respond to that? And I won't say how I responded.
Okay. So now, is this a question that you're getting, or is this like how you feel like, or when someone says like, so this is a question you get where they have all these different things that they're passionate
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. I get that. I have a lot of things, but I don't know which one to stick with and move
Okay.
with it to the end.
So what immediately came to mind for me
Yeah.
was, what's the one you couldn't live without?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot, and like for me, there's a lot of different things that I love. But if you took away talking and writing and podcasting about, because here's my belief. What drives me, Anthony? There is always a way forward.
Mm-hmm.
Always. That's the fundamental part of what I do. There's always a way forward. If you said to me, you can no longer talk about that, write about that, podcast about it, whatever, that would hurt my heart. The other stuff, it's like, yeah, I like talking about that, but that's core to me. So that's how
Okay.
I answer it. How did you answer it?
You're okay. Now, maybe I answered it differently, but and thank you for asking. You put me on the spot also. Now, I said, go 5 years ahead and look back.
Mm,
Um, what is it would you appreciate? What is that thing that can make you very happy 5 years ahead? Now, that's what you need to focus on. But then I added this to it. Now, you don't have to uh, drop everything else. And I don't know how you take
Hmm.
these. You don't have to drop everything else because everything is a part of you. But then you have got to know what to focus on and move ahead with that.
Yeah. I love that because I think what you're talking about there, Anthony, is what's at your core, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about a target, what's the bullseye?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what the bullseye is, that's so important because then you have stuff that surrounds that. It's not like you ignore that, but what's
Yeah.
the bullseye? What's the core? And
Mm-hmm.
going out the 5 years, that's actually a fabulous exercise to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's also one that's kind of similar to that is the think about you at the end of your life looking back. What would you hope that you would do in this moment? What would be a regret if you didn't do it? So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same variation, and there's so many ways to get to it. So
Mm. And they say that we can't, we won't, at the end of it all, we won't regret over the things that we did. We are going to regret over the things that we were able to do, but didn't take an action to do them.
that's right. That's
Uh-huh.
exactly right.
Yeah. So, Akkad, thank you. He's giving us some comments here. I'm absolutely honored and privileged to listen to these great panels today in my life. In fact, I have ambition to be like you in my future, but surely I'm stuck in the middle of my education. What advice do you give to me? He says he's stuck in the middle of his education, but he wants to be doing like what we are doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
How?
So do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go, go, go.
Okay.
You go.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm thrilled. Thank you for that. That's a great honor. Here's the thing: even though you're in the middle of your education, uh, think about ways that you could incorporate it now. So let me give you an example. So I was talking to someone, and he was. Um, he has a career and he has a very young family, and he's like, I can't give this up because I have to provide for my family. But he knew that he wanted to move into coaching and speaking and that type of thing. And I said, here's the great news: you don't have to give that up. You can start from where you are today. And like he was at a pretty large company, and I said, think about, are there ways that you could go to the leadership at your company and say, I would like to offer a coaching program, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you don't even have to get paid for it right away. Start for free. So he went to them and he said, hey, for 6 months, can I do a coaching program for, like this small team of people? And at the end of the 6 months, if you all like the results we're seeing, we can talk about, do we want to continue it? But it's a way to get started. So no matter where you are, think about ways that you can add it in. Or another thing, like if at university, a lot of times there are groups that need leaders, there are groups that need coaches. So I'm just a big believer in getting started in what you want to do. So that's the advice that comes to me off the top of my head.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when I was back in high school, and this time it's not even college, I'm back in high school, and I used to do art. I was in art class, so I used to paint, I used to
Ooh,
draw and write calligraphy writings. And I remember well that I started earning from my art right there in high school because I had classmates that wanted to send their girlfriends some cards, and they would say, Anthony, do this for me. And now I write
nice.
a card, paint it well, calligraph it, and they send, and I'm paid. I get my pocket money. So,
Wow.
so I caught wherever you are, if you want to achieve something, then you don't have to get to give an excuse of where you are for the purpose of why you, or for the reason why you're not taking an action towards the direction that you want to go.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yes, and we keep moving. Thank you very much, Akot, and everyone else who's there. Now, and I know we've got so much to cover. Now, you wrote a book, Bobby. Tell us
Yes, I
about it.
did. So it's called Travels of the Heart, Developing Your Inner Leader,
Okay.
because there it is. And this is all about how do I develop myself so I'm best prepared to lead my own life. Because one of the things I believe is that we can't really be a leader for others unless we're leading ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our life is such a precious gift, right? So why would we just drift along and not actively lead it? So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of and it's based on some emotional intelligence competencies, but it's largely it's based on becoming really self-aware, What do I want? What are my passions? What are my dreams? But becoming really, really self aware. And then another portion of that is on how do we kind of manage our own self, because things are going to
Mhm.
happen, right? We're going to
Yeah.
be disappointed. We're going to have frustrations, things, how do I manage myself so that I am leading myself in the direction I want to go to? And then the third portion is all around how do I give more of myself? And
Mm-hmm.
that's through empathy and what's called and purpose and noble goals. And then so it's a collection of short stories with journaling activities built into it, because that's one of the great learning modalities that
Mm-hmm.
help people with those types of um, ventures. So that's a little bit about the book. And I was really honored. Marshall Goldsmith, who is like the #1 leadership coach in the world, so I was thrilled. I
Wow.
know, it was super exciting. It was
Uh,
very scary because I had to reach out to him. I'm like, he didn't know me, and I'm like, I really admire you. And I said, would you be willing to take a look at the manuscript? And if you like it, would you endorse it? But I think that also goes to what we were talking about earlier, Anthony. Right? I
exactly.
mean, I thought that was like the biggest risk I could possibly take. And
Yeah.
he emailed back within like a day, and he said, I'd be happy to take a look at it. I don't guarantee that I'll endorse it, but I'm happy to look at it and read it.
Mm.
This busy guy who's world renowned.
Now, exactly, that is what happens. I mean, if you don't take a risk and ask someone that you may not even be imagining that is able to respond to you, then how do you expect? Now, it's better to have an answer that is no. And what is the worst that can happen to you? It's a no. So if
That's right.
it's a no, then take that step and ask the question. Now,
That's right.
it happened the same to me when I was writing my book. I reached out to one famous, he may not be so famous, but he's very well advanced. He's written 60 books and published them. A
Wow.
series, a series in the books is about to be turned into a movie. And I said, hey, Jonas, would you look at my manuscript? And he said, oh, why not? And
That's
he
right.
took my manuscript and went through it and said it's a good book. So I got telling people my book, Be Good for Good, is a good book because Jonas says so.
but I love that you took that risk, because you're right. The worst thing to do is say no.
Yeah,
And here's the thing, they can't say yes unless we ask.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
uh-huh. Yeah. There's like we say, a prayer that has not been prayed is never answered.
Mm, that's
So
right.
you got to pray. Okay,
That's right.
now we are really glad that you're here with us. Our court appreciates the fact that we are here and he's hearing us. Thank you very much, Akot, for your contributions. Also, we really appreciate you. You are part of the show. And everyone, even those who are watching silently, you are part of the show. We appreciate you. Remember to share these episodes with your friends and spread the word there out there, and remember to always ask what you need, like I'm asking you to do. Okay, so you also have a podcast. What is it
Yes. It is called Unyielded, Thriving No
about?
Matter What. And it's all about, because it's driven by the belief that we can all have the lives that we want to have if we pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're going to hit obstacles, sometimes we're going to hit hurdles, and that's okay. So it's
Yeah.
really about how do we lead ourselves in the direction that we want to go. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
there's interview formats. Those are on Wednesday mornings that those go live. On Monday mornings, I added one about a year ago, and I call it those are called Rise and Thrives, but they're still all under the Unyielded umbrella. And those are
Okay.
10 minutes or less, and it's just me talking about some principle related to self leadership, about moving forward, about getting unstuck, and that there's always a way forward. So
Mm.
that's and it's everywhere you find podcasts.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I love it.
So there's always a way forward. If
Always.
you're there, you're stuck somewhere, please remember this, that there is always a way forward. You're
Hmm.
going to find it, and sometimes you're going to take a step when you haven't found it, because along the
Yeah.
way, you're going to find it. Like
You.
Bobby went to college without knowing what she's going to take, and it has made a
Hmm.
big difference in her life.
Yeah.
So you just gotta overcome your fear. Now, talking about fear, because some people don't. How do you deal with fear?
So how do I deal with fear?
Uh-huh.
First of all, you have to know that it's absolutely normal. Fear is an indicator that you're about to do something that's important to you.
Oh.
And when you frame it that way, it's not as scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing about fear is when when we push through a fear, even if it's a tiny, tiny step, and we push through it, it builds our confidence for the future. Um, and so sometimes, we literally just have to take that plunge, but knowing that, hey, it's just an indicator that it's something important to me. The other thing I want to say about this, and I learned this from cross country skiing, because I grew up where it was very, very flat. Now I live in the Rocky Mountains and it's not flat. So I was
Mm-hmm.
terrified to go down the hill. And one thing that my skiing instructor told me is he's like, when you're trying something new, you have to try it at least 3 times. Because the first time you try it, like in skiing going down the hill, you're just trying to like get through your fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all you're doing. The second time is now you're kind of normalizing it. So it's like, okay, it wasn't a fluke that I survived the first time,
Mm-hmm.
right? The third time, that's as early as you can begin to assess whether or not that you actually enjoy it. So I've coached people around professional speaking way back in the day, and that's one of the biggest fears that people have, right? Speaking in
Mm-hmm.
public. And
Yeah.
I always told them the same thing, like, you can't give one speech and say, oh, I hate that, or oh, I love it, because you know what, you're probably going to be really uncomfortable. So at
Mm-hmm.
least try it 3 times, and try to find a way to practice it where it's safe. I mean, when I'm going to ski down a new hill, I don't go for the biggest hill I can find. I work up to it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's some of the stuff I have to say around fear.
Wow. Wonderful. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, I wish we had more time, but our time is just about over. So, for those who are listening to you and would want to follow up with you to hear more, or even
Hmm.
get to read the book, or even come to your podcast, or even get coaching, you have so much. You have so much.
Thank you.
How can they reach you?
Okay, so two best ways. One is through my website, which is just, bobbikaler.com. And there they can find the podcast. There's a way to book time with me if they want. I talk about the different coaching programs we have. And I also have a newsletter. So that's a great way. The second way is through LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. I post usually 3 times a week. I have a newsletter there. And as a matter of fact, I was just writing the newsletter for tomorrow. And that is around, there's always a way forward. And it's 3 key elements for putting that into play, putting that into action for us. So I do a lot of writing. Anthony, I've tried to share so much with my writing and the podcast, because this is something I want everyone to be able to benefit from. So thank you for asking me that question. I hope that people reach out and follow me there.
Oh, yeah, they should. They should.
Good.
I'm going to
Thank
follow
you.
you on LinkedIn because I haven't followed
Good.
you. So, all you who are listening, let's go and connect with Bobbi for much more. And we are just about to come to the end of this show. But then, if you've left just a few tips to tell us of getting unstuck, you have another 1 minute. Go ahead.
1 minute. Okay.
Yeah.
So so getting unstuck, number one, you don't have to have all the answers to get started, right? You can learn what you need to learn. The second thing I'd say is the answer is somewhere. Even though if you don't have the answer, that doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have the answer, right? They can reach out to you, they can reach out to me, they can reach out to a lot of different people, but the answer is somewhere. And the third thing I'd say is tap into the power of yet, right? So even though you can't do something today, that doesn't matter, right? You just can't do it yet. But what that means is that with practice and skill and resiliency and persistence, you can learn how to do it. So those are my 3 really fast tips. Did I do it in a minute?
Oh, yes, you did.
Yay.
You're wonderful. You just do exactly what you've been asked.
I try my
Likewise,
best, Anthony.
I love that. So we leave the rest for people to come and follow up with you, connect with you on every platform
Yes,
that they can find
please.
you, and they get to enjoy much more of you. Hey, follow Bobbi. Go and follow Bobbi Kahler for more. And This has been it for today's episode at Now Tell Us on how to get unstuck. And I know that you enjoyed it. I did myself. And I've been your host, Anthony Moirode. And together with my guest, Bobbi Kahler, we're saying bye for now. Bye. Go follow her.